Hey, welcome to this episode of Black Beat Podcast. Hi, my name is John Washington, and I am your host with my co-host here today, Fawn Aberson. Hey, listen, this is Black Beat Podcast, where we take an unapologetically approach to all the issues that affect the black community. And today, we got a live one coming at y'all today, and I'm really excited about it. We got three beautiful young ladies here and my special support guest, host, Miss Fawn Aberson. Miss Fawn Aberson. Hey, look, sister, I appreciate y'all all being here. But Fawn, do me a favor. Introduce yourself and all these lovely ladies that we have here at the table.
Yeah, thank you, John. So my name is Fawn Aberson. I'm one of the executive writers for Flossin Media, Flossin Magazine, right? So the Williams and Russell CDC project has been on the radar for, 4 or 5 years now? It's been
not
longer than that. Yeah. 2017 maybe?
Yeah.
Is when Legacy deeded back some property to the community to develop, and it's been quite a ride, right? And I think in Portland, Oregon, it's been an excellent example of how the black community particularly has united together in leadership, in guidance, in implementation, and we're about to see the brick and mortar implementation of all this, and it's been quite a model that's been impressive. So one of the updates to the project is they've just recently hired a new executive director, so we want to welcome Azalea Renfield to the table. And with her...
Welcome, sister. I hear you from out of town somewhere.
California.
Well, oh, God, here we go again.
And so supporting Azalea today is Anya Lehalova, and she has been was chosen a couple years ago as the developer of this project. And then, of course, Dana Shepard is here, the executive director of the Portland Housing Center. And she will be working, the project has three components, and we'll let the ladies discuss what those components are. And this is an important thing for the public to learn, because there is some significant wealth generation components to this project. And these ladies are spearheading the leadership of that. So we're excited to have you guys here today, and we'll just get right into it.
Let's go.
Okay?
Hey.
This episode of Black Beat Podcast is brought to you in part by the University of Oregon. Mighty doesn't follow trends. It sets them. Be mighty. Be Oregon.
Hey, so Fawn, are you going to take the time to go? You took the time to go around and take it and introduce all these lovely guests that we have here today?
Well, I just introduced them, but why don't we hear a little bit from each one of you as to your role in the project and sort of what motivates you or excites you about this particular phase of it.
Thank you.
Okay. So I guess I'll go first.
Come on with it.
So I'm Azalea Renfield. The newly hired executive director. I am so honored to have been selected. I think it was a really good candidate pool. I'm super excited to get to work and do some really meaningful things in Portland. Coming from the great state of California, the Golden State, it's nice to just get a change and kind of come here and do something different, but in a more meaningful way. I think Portland is definitely a gem. And when I came here, I actually certainly felt like it was like a young DC of seeing so many black professionals, which was like inundated. I was just like, where am I at? I didn't expect that.
I can't quite figure out where they all coming from myself. They just showing up all of a sudden. And it wasn't the weed. I don't think the weed was the legalizing. The weed was a big part of it, but ooh, go for it, sis.
Probably not that part, but certainly I definitely was like shocked by just how many professionals was here, and the sense of warmth of people just being so inviting. I just didn't expect that in Portland, and to see the diversity as far as I didn't think the diversity would look like this and have such a big black presence, but I actually was pleasantly surprised. So
right on. Welcome. We welcome you to the great state of Oregon, sister. But we need all the professionals that we can get that are black here, bringing the heat, and we want the heat to be brought. And y'all seem to be bringing it. But who's this other sister you got sitting right next to you right about
This
here?
is the fabulous Dana Shepherd.
Dana
Thank
Shepherd.
you.
Yeah, I hear she's smoking and grooving too.
I don't know about that.
Well, no, she's smoking right on past the rest of them. You know?
I don't know about that.
Well, I didn't say no weed, but I know you're running hard.
Yeah. As they stated, I'm Dana Shepherd, and I'm so happy to be working aside Azalea in this moment. So thank you for joining us and coming all the way here. Right now, I am the executive director of Portland Housing Center, which is a nonprofit housing counseling agency and also a mortgage broker as well. I notably, for me right now in this moment, we partner very closely with the city of Portland, administering the home ownership preference policy list. And so just very thankful for that. But I also sit on the Williams and Russell CDC board as a general board member. So I'm very much engaged in the entire project outside of just the home ownership, but also Black Business Hub and the rental units that are going to be coming up. So happy to be a part of this work.
Welcome today, Dana. Yes.
Thank you. And my name is Azalea Renfield, and I am a real estate developer here in Portland. My company's called Audrey, and our work centers on essentially social equity and thinking about bringing good design, environmental sustainability, and really thinking about, who builds the projects, who's involved in the projects, and centering our work on the Black community and other communities of color. And my role in this project is twofold. One is that my company is the campus developer for this project. And so really what people don't know about this project is it's actually 3 different projects. And so we say the Williams and Russell project, but it's actually going to be 3 projects. One is an affordable apartment project, which is being developed by PCRI. They're the developer for that project. The second project being the Affordable Homeownership Project, and the third being the Black Business Hub Project. And those 2 projects are being developed by my company. But I'm also we're essentially working on behalf of the Williams and Russell CDC to take the land that Legacy is giving to Williams Russell CDC and help them divide it up into 3 different parcels so that the 3 projects can move independently based on their funding and what's good for each project. And so I'm really excited to be hired by them, but I'm also excited to share in the development experience with PCRI.
Wow. I'm so impressed about who I'm sitting at the table with here today, y'all. And, but let's just dive into this thing, man. Let's talk a little bit about the history of this project. Is anybody who here amongst y'all know the history a little bit about how the project came about and so on and so on? Could y'all share a little bit about that, about the past?
Yeah.
How it all came into existence, your perception about that?
Sure. I have some history. I wasn't very closely engaged at the time with the Williams and Russell project. At the time, it was called Hill Block at one point. I was working at the city, so it was kind of arm's length, and there was a project working group. It kind of started all when all of the preference policy and the North-Northeast strategy and all of that came about, which from my memory is about 2014, 2015. I could be off a little bit, but
just
that
a little
is
bit,
where
not much. We was part of the selection committee and all that stuff. I mean, we found the paperwork for the project. Yeah.
But the displacement due to the Legacy Emmanuel and building of that and the destruction of homes and everything happened way, back, I believe in the 40s, 50s, something like that.
So all the way up to the 70s.
All the way up to the 70s. So I can go on and on, but that is the history. I am a 4th generation Portlander, so I've been here. I've seen it all happen. I've seen things go up, things go down, right?
Hey.
And so, it means a lot to me to be included in this work and be doing my people's work for the community.
Yeah,
so,
that's what it's all about, right?
Yeah. So any other history?
I was going to say I kind of came into the scene in essentially when they put out an RFP to get a developer. And so that was around the time that I started my company, which was in 2020. And so basically put together a team in 2021 and went after, competed to be the developer for this project, along with our team members are myself, Audrey, PCRI as a co-developer, and then Colas Construction, a Black-owned construction company, as the contractor for the project, Lever Architecture as the architect on the project, and then Hood Design Studio, which is a Black-owned landscape architecture firm out of Oakland, as the landscape architect. There's so many other people that are part of the project, but those are sort of I would say the leadership part of the project. And so, yeah, we've been really excited to be working on behalf of the Williams and Russell CDC since we were selected.
What's some of the other work that you've done? Tell us a little bit about your background, some of the other projects that you've done. I mean, we were really excited when you hit the scene and you came into the marketplace, and we knew you were here. But tell us a little bit about what you've been doing, and some of your past work.
Yeah. So I've been in real estate development pretty much the last 17 years since I lived in Portland, and I worked for a regional developer here, and then I was a partner in a company prior to starting my own company. And so I completed 10 real estate development projects with the past company, student housing, multifamily housing, homes for sale, and then started getting more involved in what I would call mission-oriented development. And so we, at my previous company, we did the headquarters for the Nature Conservancy, and then we did the headquarters for Meyer Memorial Trust, which was one of the few last projects before I left that
was a beautiful
company.
building, yeah, and it came in really fast. Well, you're right. I mean, I think, but you know, the whole fact of the matter is that the construction and the design was just fabulous. We seen that when I walked into that building, I said somebody special is building stuff around here right about now, and we really like the projects that you're doing.
Thank you.
So ladies, let's talk a little bit more about the project over there on Williams. What's the primary focus of it at this point in time? What's the theme of the project? Anybody cares to want to share with us the theme of the project?
Yeah, so I think this really is about justice and equity and just kind of just right and a wrong. I think Portland has a great chance to demonstrate to the nation, actually, about what reparations really look like. It's beyond just giving someone $1, but to actually give something back where there can be some generational wealth created in that. And so what Portland is doing is taking it, I think, triple fold on the fact of what it looks like. When the mayor of Portland came out and made a statement and said, we had to right this wrong, we did it wrong, we need to stop and sit on that, I thought that was like huge, because you don't see politicians actually taking the onus of someone else's wrong and then just freezing in time to say, we did this and we need to get this back. And so much so, we're also going to make this commitment to give money to this and to give land to this. I mean, that to me was huge, because it shows you want to mean what you say and say what you mean. So I think that was huge, because you don't see, I mean, we know that land is priceless these days. I mean, land is so important. It was our slaves back in the past didn't get access to land. I mean, these were things we fought over, but to just give land back in such a big, profound way is huge. And then also put money towards that to right that wrong was huge. So I would say that this project is about atonement, about showing other cities how it's done. And I think that we can also, hopefully from a policy front, but also to have the blueprint to show how this can be done. When the press release went out about this project, we received an email or a phone call from Raleigh, North Carolina, saying, hey, I like what you guys are doing. I want to learn more. Wow. So just that in and of itself shows the magnitude of this project and what it looks like. And, of course, we don't have all the pieces. We're still figuring this out as we go. And I love when the mayor said there will be a lot of stumbles along the way, because we have to figure this out. But I thought it was a weird thing to say, because it seems a little quirky and kind of like clunky to kind of do these things, but it was the truth. And as we go and keep taking it day by day, we get better. But the fact that people are already looking way across the nation, across this country, is already looking to see what we're doing, they're watching. And this is a great chance to put not only Portland on the map, but to show what civility looks like, what it looks like to actually give back to a community that wasn't always so trusting, where it's hard to build that trust and get people to come back and say, you know what, I'm going to trust Portland and get this right, especially with the whole the city being involved.
So in your perception, what I'm hearing you say is the project is sort of the theme is restorative justice?
Absolutely.
In there, wow, and that's a hard margin to try to strike in, you know, to be able to get. So are you guys feeling any pressure as a result of that theme, or what's going on? Because, I mean, in light of all the reversing of this, affirmative action, the attack on the whole economic strategy that is supporting the black community, it's just being the groundswell for resistance to that is just really starting to get a little bit ugly.
Yeah, I think just to echo that, like anything that feels race-based seems to be under attack, and there needs to be some creativity, because, the disparity is real, right? So regardless, you can't change those numbers in terms of disparities, right? Those are real. So how do you both, address the disparity while still trying to come into this conformity that, feels a little bit ridiculous, right? Because the facts bear, where the disparity is. So how are you guys addressing that as a team, individually leading your own organizations, but collectively on this project?
Well, I would say just to start, I think in knowing where we are, we know what this is about, and people are going to feel uncomfortable, and people are going to feel worried about it. However, I think as long as we be honest and upfront to say we all know what this is, and it was the mayor said it, we're trying to get this. We know who we're displaced. We know who we displaced, and fortunately, however people want to see it, that constituency was a majority of a certain group. And so that in and of itself shows that, we're triaging the area and the recipients of that area, and they just happen to be people of color. So I think as we navigate this and try to restore justice, we are going to abide to the rules of the land. We're not trying to circumvent anything, right? We're just trying to just right the wrong in a way, open process where everyone can come to the table. We're not discriminating. It's, again, we're recipients of that land.
But it's 1.7 acres. You think we can restore everybody's justice in that one little piece of dirt?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
But
it's a great starting point.
Yeah, that's
it's a great starting point.
And are there any other similar projects like this nationally? I heard you say that this is one of the few nationally that y'all have talked about. Is there any other type of restorative projects around the country that seem to be similar to this that y'all are mirroring, or is it just y'all are just building it as you go?
Go ahead.
I was going to say, we've been closely following the work of the Albina Vision Trust, and understanding what they're doing is similar to what we're trying to do, but at a regional site. And I know for a fact there's nothing like what the Albina Vision Trust is trying to do in the nation. And so if we're able to do the goals that we want to do on this project, I would say this would be the model in the nation for doing it.
Got you. So y'all are pretty enthusiastic about this whole aspect of this platform and what it's looking to appeal. So what is the structure of the project looking like? I hear that there's 3 aspects of the project, right?
I actually wanted to talk about the disparity a little bit before, because it's actually a key.
On this show, we always talk about the disparity. We want to talk about some of the upside, where the money at going to be on the
I
other
want to
side.
talk about the upside, too. The reason I want to talk about disparity is to talk about the uniqueness of this project also. And so I actually did a presentation at the International Mass Timber Conference that's held in Portland every year, and it was last year. And I basically put together a panel of professionals, Black professionals from Portland, Oregon, that represented different sectors of the industry: real estate, construction, the energy sector, architecture. And so I did some research on the stats of those particular professions that are the same ones that are going to be, helping this project. And there was an article in the New York Times that basically said 1%, less than 1% of the real estate developers in the United States, if you added up all the Black and Latinx developers together, they make up less than 1% of developers. Okay, so there's that. Less than 2% of architects are Black women. And then I think it's less than 1% of contractors out there are Black owned. And we essentially have Black professionals in each of those professions on this project. So we're talking about the less than 1% of these professions. And when you have people that have lived experience within community doing a project about community, you don't even know what the outcome is going to be, because we're folks that actually care, versus like, here's a theoretical idea that we're trying to achieve. Like, there's passion and personal connection to the work. And so that's one of the things I'm most excited about. Is like, we have all the goals. I can talk about the project and all that kind of stuff at the end of the day, but to have that dedication by trained professionals we are so few in our industries, it's going to really create something special that we don't even know what it is yet.
And you know what? Can I just say one thing? Yeah. I just want to piggyback on her. What I love about this project too, which I think is so noteworthy, is that this project is tangible, achievable, and measurable. There's no outcomes that are better can ever be great if you don't have those kind of metrics. So people can actually see what's being done. People can actually measure its impact, and it's obtainable because the blueprint is already there. So I think when people say, is this a scam? What's really happening? You'll see with your own eyes when those projects go up. But you'll see when people move into those places, it's real. So you can hold us accountable to see that those things will get done.
You know you're spending too much on gambling. You had to cut back on groceries because of gambling. Your bills are late. You're not even sure you'll be able to pay next month's rent on time. You've realized gambling is affecting you financially, but how do you afford to get treatment when right now you can't even afford the basics? There's good news. Here in Oregon, treatment is free, it's effective, and it's confidential. Reach out to us at opgr.org. Treatment costs nothing. What will it cost you if you don't take the first step?
Dana, you're kind of quiet there for a second. Sure.
To Anyale's point, though, so I remember John and I, we did an article back probably in 2017 or something like that, and we interviewed Chris Gwynn, who was with dr.com. He was one of like the first black real estate companies we knew about. I don't know if there is any in the state, and we thought that was ridiculous. We also looked at the state of Oregon's real estate board, or whatever you call it. There were no African American folks on there. John was really frustrated because we were trying to, here in the Seoul district, see how many small businesses of color we could get, black businesses, that we could get into brick and mortar facilities. And every time we saw a sign going up, this place for rent, this for rent, it would be filled like that, and it would always usually be filled with, more folks that look like me, white business owners and that kind of stuff. And we're like, it seemed that before even we could connect a black business with a real estate commercial space, that it would be gone. And we talked to Chris about this, and to your point, it was like the natural network of predominantly white developers and white real estate and commercial real estate firms was to let their friends and families and networks who were predominantly white know about these spaces and places. And so you would seed these spaces and places with mostly your natural network. And so to your point, if we don't have the diversity in, the fundamental, the structure, right, that network doesn't grow. So I think this project is a great example of how that network can grow. And then hopefully there's a sustainability factor to, now this has been done, how can we continue, right? And then the last thing I want to mention about was, I think a lot of this inspiration from everything, including Albina Vision Trust, and I want to give homage to her, was, the great Maxine Fitzpatrick, right, who was the executive director of Portland Community Reinvestment Initiative, who had the foresight to both come up with a concept that was the right to return, which led to the preference policy. And then she also had Pathway 1000, which was to put 1,000 displaced African Americans back into Northeast Portland over a 10-year period, with a majority of that being home ownership. So you gals, right, are now sort of the lifting, doing the work of these concepts. So how does that feel for you to be the implementer of some of your sort of, I guess, mentors in the back, or your elders?
But I would assume that it comes in different shades and forms and pathways. And so most of what I'm hearing is from the architect side and from the management side is pretty much so a pipeline or a private. But that's what about public? And Dana, and I'm thinking about, well, did they? Sure. Was there a question that you believe that they?
Yeah, I was saying, how does it feel, to bringing forth some of the visions of, the great patriarchs and the elders of the past?
Yeah, for sure. I'll just say this. Anyale just talked about, when she was introducing herself, just about all of the people that have been involved in to get us to where we are right now. And there's been plenty, right? And Maxine, yes, major respect to her and her vision in securing all of these scattered sites and everything in the right time, just having a vision. And there were so many people involved. I also just want to give a major credit when we talk about the Northeast neighborhood, the housing strategy itself. I can't even begin to name all of the people that were involved in that project working group, the oversight committee, the community itself that showed up time and time again, over and over again in 2014 and 2015, putting dots and stickers on a wall at Dishman and everywhere else in the community. Those are the people, where that information was collected, and we are literally doing that work. Yes, we are removed. And I just want to say, this is a very high profile project, right? That does not come without political rub, and that does not come without having table split, right? Some people happy, some people mad, all of that. It is very, very hard work, but just implementing something from people that came before us feels very, very good. And I'll even say, sorry, I can't do this without saying, even people that y'all never heard of, which happens to be Inez Davis, which is my great grandmother who came here from the deep South, right? I am doing the work for her today. So I just, you know, so I just want to share that. Hopefully that answers your question from my point of view.
Well, maybe that answers her question, but mine, as far as you navigating in your new job, you've taken on a new role, and that role is bureaucracy at its best on the Portland housing side. Okay, so what is it like navigating that system, trying to bring about this perception about social justice, economic advancement for a community-specific, culturally specific community? How are you doing it in the public side of this?
Right,
you know?
right. So although we are nonprofit, we are not government, so we can be unapologetically Black, right? We are
Thank
not
you for that.
Yeah, we are not a culturally specific agency, but we are Black-led at this point. When I came as the executive director, we have a targeted demographic of folks that's Black, African American, and Latinx community. We speak about that. We get our grants to support those communities. We are very much intentionally focused on narrowing the home ownership and wealth gap, for sure. It does it does not mean that we are exempt from ridicule, that we aren't putting ourselves out there, legal risks and everything, because the folks that don't want Black and brown people to have anything still sit in those powerful seats.
Right.
Yeah, and so we run that risk every day, even if in the end we may not get sued, but there's people calling and having something to say, and we understand that is where we are right now in this project. People are not going to be happy about it. It happened for decades at a time, right? And so us coming in here, if it's all right, little Black girls trying to do something, you know what I'm saying? There's people mad about that.
Y'all come here maybe little. Y'all got a big stick. I know that.
So everybody is not happy and on board about that, and it's still hard navigating that. It's very, very difficult.
So Dana, are you seeing a distinct difference? I mean, I've been, I don't want to date myself at this point, but the way we used to do it was one way, and most of the time that was about up in your face, and holding people, trying to hold them accountable for how they treating us and so forth. So is the younger generation approaching this thing differently throughout in these bureaucracies than we used to have to deal with that? And can you speak on that a little bit? Because I noticed y'all making some serious gain. I know we've worked for the last 30 years to bring about the soil tilling that we did to prepare the soil for this next iteration of growth. And I could 30 years of that work so far and now. But what I'm seeing the young folks doing now is going straight to the faucet. They ain't waiting for the trickle down. They ain't waiting, none of that. So what is it like down there with the young people? Because I noticed that in your last event, y'all had a lot of younger folks that's involved in doing this. Talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah, our last event, that was Portland Housing Center's Black History Month event, the first kind of outdoor, be outside moment in a very, very long time, years. And I'll just say, I'm a product of a baby boomer that told me to keep it quiet, be happy. That's honestly, that is, and I actually consider myself kind of older, wiser than the folks that I would speak about right now. The young people that I work with right now, and the folks that I even birthed, which are peak millennials, to be honest with you, they are they are a lot more boisterous than I ever have been, and they do approach things. They go straight, like you say, straight to the faucet. Yeah. They are asking for what it is that they need, and so I have moments of that, and I also I know how to, I'm an environmental scanner. Like I'm checking the scene. That's what I'm doing. People know you're gonna get a letter from me. You may not hear me. You may not hear me, in the public, but there's
that
some
letter
folks
coming,
that
right?
that letter is coming. Of my unappreciation
about
record, whatever it is that you did, it's coming, right? And so yes, I definitely think that this generation is a very, very different from how even I was raised. So
we're gonna run through a few questions real quickly. So Angela, this one is for you.
Okay.
Okay, how do you see the intersection? Now, all three of y'all could answer this one. How do you see the intersection between housing and business development, particularly in revitalizing historical marginalized communities? How do y'all see that intersection? What does it look like?
Yeah. I think for me, housing is an immediate need, right, across the United States. There's just a complete lack of supply, whether it's affordable or not affordable, it's just a complete lack of supply. There's a lot of market factors that have driven that. And so I think that's just becoming very apparent to everyone in the United States, regardless of like political affiliation or race. It's just very apparent. What is not yet, I think, in the ethos of people, and I think definitely not fully embraced in Oregon, which kind of saddens me, is there isn't a focus on economic development. There just isn't. And so, you know, I think all of us who care about the issues of housing and other issues know that if you have the dollars in your pocket, then you're not as needy for affordable housing. And really, that's the way to get out of poverty, is really through economic development measures. And so I can't see one separated from the other. And that's one of the reasons I'm a board member on BBPDX, right? And thinking about that, that's one of the reasons that we're really pushing hard for this Black Business Hub, really about, and I own a small business, right? And so really thinking about how do we grow business in the community, and then also workforce development is super important to get the young folks in professions where they're going to be making a lot of money, and then they can pick and choose what house they live. You know, they don't have to just get what's available, let's say. And so to me, they're intrinsically linked.
Yeah, I would agree with you.
Question was about the intersection of
between housing and business.
And housing, you know, housing isn't ever just housing, right? It is our health, our schools, our education, all of that. I just made a temporary move in neighborhoods not too far, 5 miles apart. And I tell you, just the access to good food, easily accessible, going to the store, breakfast. You know, you know, I'm temporarily in a place too where I'm like trying to even decide if I even need a car at this moment. You know what I mean? And not everyone can afford a car, so it would be nice if folks didn't have to have a car to get to where they need to get to what they need, and whether that's church or school or whatever the case is. So to have the intersection of housing and business is critical, right? And especially there's been a significant amount of funds invested economic development, and you were talking about some challenges with Chris Quinn being the only realtor at the time, Black realtor. I remember commercial realtor at that time. And I tell you, with this work that we're doing, when we put people together with people that looked like them, they were definitely more intrigued, inspired. They felt more supported. And so it all comes together. Housing isn't just housing. It's about the businesses around as well.
Yeah, I'm so in support of what you're talking about right now. Angela, what's your thought about this?
To piggyback off both Andale and Dana, housing and economic development are not mutually exclusive at all. They really go hand in hand. It's so funny because people always say, let's get housing, and then it just stops there. But no one talks about the realization that if you do not have money, economic development at its best, there's no way you can stay in that housing. And it goes to business. If you we give you everything you need to get your business going, how do you sustain it? Right. There's economic development in just living and working, and they both are driving machines. If you want to stay in business, you must make money. If you want to live in your house, you must make money. They are not mutually exclusive, and people don't like to talk about that because they kind of want to say, okay, we helped you, just figure it out. Yeah. And it's like, no, you can't do that. If you want people to be sustainable, and that's the thing, you want to build a sustainable community. That's why I love this project so much. When Andale and everyone talks about the home ownership piece, and I love what Portland Housing Center is doing, is really trying to get people that economic beat, that piece. If you're a homeowner, we all know that that's the fastest way for everyday people to acquire wealth, because it's the equity piece that's so crucial. And the fact that what everyone's trying to do here at this table is to really make sure those people's dreams are actually realized. And the fact of having a state at the table to say, you know what, I'm having a hard time to pull a little loan, or send my kid to college, or a medical issue, or whatever the case may be. That's a single thing that we don't always have as people of color, but other people kind of figure this out already, whether it's from just passing it down from generation after generation, or saying, you know what, I'm married rich, or I kind of just know this thing 'cause my friend told me, but everybody doesn't have those same communities to be in to hear those things. So again, housing and economic development, they're not mutually exclusive. They go hand in hand.
So the preference policy, affordable housing, are we heading in the right direction with that in terms of when you think about affordable housing, are we just thinking about apartments, or are we thinking about actual single-family homes that are separate from a building that is, but are we headed? I'm trying to somehow navigate the thought about affordable housing, and it's where it's located, how it's located. Do you believe we have too much of that in one sector? Is it important to mix that up a little bit about the type of housing? I mean, what are your thoughts about this affordable housing situation being placed in one area? For example, too much of it in one area. Like, for example, the MLK has got, to me, almost 70% of the vouchers, affordable housing vouchers that were given out here on the MLK corridor. What are y'all thoughts about that?
I was hoping that Anya would talk about yesterday's event.
Yesterday's event.
Okay, add on to that.
Yeah, so I'll talk about a little bit about yesterday's event, but then I also wanted to talk about basically housing choice is what you're referring to, and location. Yesterday, we had the Portland Housing Center and the Williams and Russell CDC had a Black homeownership engagement workshop. So on the affordable homeownership project, part of this project, we are essentially in design right now, and we wanted to get feedback on the floor plans. Do they work? They're not single-family homes, but we've been intending them to have a single-family home feeling with regard to gardens and backyards and the way we approach the design. And so we had this workshop, and it was a full house. It was actually located at Meyer Memorial Trust Center for Great Purposes, and we got a lot of great information on that. And my company and Portland Housing Center, prior to this project, even the RFP even going out for this project, we came together and came up with the Black homeownership survey with the idea that if we get some information about what Black homeowners' preferences are, one day a project will arrive that, maybe I could do in partnership with them. And then this RFP came out. And so we essentially used that survey data, which said, most Black people on that survey said that they wanted to live in either inner or outer Northeast. Most people, 67% of them wanted a 3-bedroom or higher, with regard to size of the unit. And then the number one preference that people wanted was a backyard or a garden. Right. And so we took those 3 ideas and other ideas, and essentially that was the basis of the design for this project. So it was a very successful event yesterday, and we hope to share more with the public on that. With regard to concentrations of affordable housing, there's a lot of amazing things happening in the state of Oregon that's actually really special at the state level. I'm actually the chair of Oregon's Land Conservation and Development Commission, and we've been tasked at the state to enact a lot of the housing policy around land use. And so there's housing production strategy work that's going on right now. There's missing middle housing work that's going on. There's equitable and climate-friendly communities work that's going on. And all of that work is intended to let people have choice about where they live, because you might want to live next to where you work. There's some communities we know in Oregon that have been exclusionary to affordable, like we don't want affordable housing here. Exactly. Yeah. But yet people have to work
in the hills over there.
Yeah. I'm not going to say where. Yeah. I represent the state. I'm not going to say where. But you know where. Mm-hmm. What if somebody works there? That means they can't live there. What if the schools are amazing there? That means their kids can't go to the school there. So unfortunately, because our education system is completely tied to where you live, it just perpetuates a system of inequality over time. Mm-hmm. And so my hope is at the state policy level, we're setting a framework, this is at least with land use, and then with the department at the state of housing, hopefully with funding, because you can't just do it with land use, where people will actually have a choice. They could live in affordable housing anywhere. Right? That is the goal. Yeah. Not just you have to live here, because affordability is also how much you have to pay in your gas to get to your work. That's part of affordability too. So we want people to have the ability to essentially, like people who have wealth, like the white community who can choose and pick where they want to live, we want communities of color to be able to do the same.
Got you. Any thoughts about that, Dana?
She said it.
She said it?
Yeah. No.
Jose, how you feel the same way about it?
I absolutely do. I do want to just say I do feel like when there's a high concentration of affordable housing in one area, it is perpetuating something that we don't want to see, that we're trying to get
Exactly.
away from,
Yeah.
which is, communities coming together, stack on top of each other, and it becomes what we all know as what ghettos, or they get tear down and there's no investment there.
Gotcha.
And that's why when people say not my backyard NIMBY, it becomes a problem, because it's like we have to diversify that so that the populations could be, and studies have shown that literally when you mix housing at different income levels, the project stays, there's sustainability
Yeah,
there.
I'd agree with
but
that.
people don't like to
Yeah,
have that
it's important.
conversation.
Yeah, they don't want to have
Sorry,
that.
Andrea, can I say-
And I wanted to also say about design. People have a perception based on, the lack of funding for affordable housing. This be like, oh, that's affordable housing. Oh, that's market rate housing. We want in our state affordable housing to look like market rate housing.
Right.
Yes.
We
Right.
want that investment to be in there so that you don't get stigmatized by living in affordable
Yeah,
housing.
I think it was Strickland, a brother out of Philly, said that it seems like whenever this thing affordable comes into some kind of question, it means the lowest denominator. Instead that we should be trying to somehow or another figure on how we can display the best, the most improved, and those types of things in whatever condition or whatever situation we're in. But I have a really aching question that I want to ask y'all as I listen to y'all talking. Has the American dream changed in your mind in terms of what it looks like? I thought the understanding, and my understanding coming through my generation in time, was that the small business was the backbone of this country. Okay, is that notion changed in any kind of way in y'all's minds? Because I don't necessarily see economic development focusing in on, the whole lay of the land around storefronts and how delivery is going and this and that. Is it changing in your mind?
I just think that the American dream used to be, get married, get a house, be an entrepreneur. I think that a lot of those vehicles have changed simply because it is not, we learned from with the PP loans when they just kind of, everybody became a business. We don't know if that was political, what that was all about.
haven't talked much
Literally,
about
I
that
had
one.
uncles and uncles, like
yeah,
cousins
no.
applying. I'm like, not
Yeah, they was
business
coming in
owner.
here all
You
kinds
got
of
a
ways.
check. Don't even ask about
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
So I feel like there was like something there that was a little weird. But I don't think that becoming an entrepreneur, becoming a homeowner is easy anymore. It's been kind of like made so difficult. People don't know how to get a permit or, license. It's not as, there's no blueprint on how to do it anymore that makes it easier for young people, middle-aged people, help even my age. People don't, it's not easy anymore. I feel like, and it's so hard to buy into that notion of what the American dream looks like, to where people are literally just trying to survive. My generation was told to go to school and you'll get it. That didn't happen. 3 master's degrees later, and I still have school debt. And I'm just like, I'm trying to figure out how to just survive. So it's like, can I actually become an entrepreneur? No, I think I need a 9 to 5. So, because I might fail at that. So I question the whole American dream, so I don't think it's really there.
Yeah.
Go ahead,
I'll say the American dream, in my opinion, has just always been freedom, right? And it's how we obtain it and get that, like access to health and capital. And I think it's adjusted in a way. My father had a cleaners at one point, and that was the thing. All at Paul Knowles and all those, they had businesses, right? And that was the way to go. And I think now people are having to adjust how they obtain that freedom, how they're going to retire and all of that, and it adjusts. But if you look at the bigger picture, I think it's access and freedom. And right now people want land because they see it flying
Or fleeting.
and we've sold land that we can never get back, right? And so people are just really just trying to figure out how to obtain that freedom and be able to live a long, healthy, prosperous life.
I was going to say, I think what the U.S. is tending toward now is a concentration of wealth into a few hands at the expense of everybody else. And so with that concentration of wealth, I think that has hindered kind of business creation and the ability to own homes and all those things. As far as business creation, I have a small business that I created, and I'm actually in this program right now that's an incubator program that's taking me through all the different steps. And I was a business owner for 12 years prior, and I'm like, every week I'm learning something I didn't know at all, and I'm shocked. And so what I think is very elusive now. like, how to go about this. And so that's one of the cool things about this project is we're thinking about forming a building called the Black Business Hub, where imagine if somebody could say, go to that building and there's somebody like a concierge or something at that desk who'd be like, what do you need? You need a registered agent? Oh, we got that here. What do you need? Connection to government? We have some offices here with office hours with government representatives here to help you. Like, there's not a physical presence of I want to create a business. And so it's very elusive. And so we're trying to break down that barrier by providing a place that everyone will know, go here and you get help.
Yeah. Did you get that answered, the American dream?
Did it appear that it died?
No. But, I think a lot of us here, we have kids, right? They're in their teens, their 20s, their et cetera. And I'm wondering, do you feel like the Williams and Russell CDC is, if their opportunities are getting out to the general public? Are folks really understanding what's going on here? And if so, what are you feeling like they're understanding? If not, what's the message to these folks that are still kind of on the sideline? I know about that, but like sometimes I think the apathy from young people is always that we've got plenty of time. We're not thinking about that right now. So what's the message regarding the opportunities for this Williams Russell CDC? What do we need to be doing to sort of, bring motivation to the community that this benefits?
Right, thank you. And what do you think the community needs to hear, y'all?
Yeah. I was wondering if I could end with you. I just wanted to start off with.
Yeah, go ahead.
I know there was some point at which people were saying, like, is this project really happening? Like, I haven't heard anything about it. So I just wanted to address that first. It's a very complicated project. So let's start off there. Real estate development in general is complicated, right? And then you add all of the vision and the community benefit that we want. We've essentially spent the last 2 years doing some very fundamental work that you have to do in development. So, site assessment, what are the utility situation? How do we divide up the land to essentially be able to acquire it and make... so that's kind of work that's not, it's very technical. It's not out in the public. Our press release that we came out with in March really was our first being like, okay, now we're starting the design process. So I just wanted to kind of set the stage of where we are in the timeline with the hope that the actual physical projects are finished in 2026 and 2027. So I just wanted to kind of set that. And then.
Do you mind if I say something? No, you can end. I really appreciate this diverse panel right here. It's coming from separate views. I'll just say quickly, programming, right? Programming is something very hard to speak about in this stage of this process. But me sitting here as a part of Portland Housing Center, knowing the people, having a tremendous and amazing staff that knows what people need, what people want, what it takes to get them there for home ownership, we get to fold that in right now. I get to talk to Anjali and her team about that right now, when usually and in the past no one has even thought about that. They're just doing it, right? And so I just want to let the people know, the citizens, the community know that we are thinking about them right now as we build this.
Right. Yeah. Y'all ain't gonna wait until to build the handicap after somebody come back after the building built and say we need handicap bathrooms. Right? Yeah, there you go.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I would just say I was at the event yesterday and just being in amongst people ranging from different ages and just seeing the level of distrust of because I think we forget that a tragedy happened. And so when people come into the room, they're like, what are you guys trying to do? They sit there, side eye, roll eyes, not really sure. Because it's natural response because it's like, okay, is this really real? Is this going to actually actualize? Right now I see dirt. Like, you guys have all these beautiful buildings and I can be part of this and I can be a homeowner, I can live and rent this place. It's not realized yet. It's still like there's okay, we just hear you talking, but is this actually going to happen tomorrow in 3 years? I got kids to raise, bills to, I don't think there's a connection just yet. However, I will say on the other side of I won't say the naysayers, but the people who are a little bit more skeptical, who might not be so happy about this project, they probably believe it more than anybody because they're like, you guys getting all this money. I see all the grants coming in. People who are like a little bit more watching everything that we're doing, they know it's coming. So they're like, who's going to get in those places? They're like, start asking all these questions because they know. But the people who we're actually trying to benefit, maybe not so much. It's going to take a little bit more time. And that trust is so big because I love Dana. You should have seen her yesterday. She was out there and like answering questions and like, how do we know this is real? And they're just like hands on. I'm like, yes. And I was getting so excited because I was like, this is what I mean. It's that distrust. People have to see familiar faces and say, okay, Angela, you said this. Dana, you said this. And it's like, I'm here. What do you need? So we have to be at their service and meet them where they are. And then slowly we'll be able to bring them in to the fold. And by the time the 2 years come to pass, we'll be able to say, here it is. And now you're on the list.
We got it.
I think this conversation is a good part of this, right? Because we know, Dana, you do home ownership education classes over there and things like that. So it takes a long time to go through that, right? A home ownership process. Really, it's like a year minimum
more.
process. Right.
Especially if you're talking about
budgets.
historically marginalized
Right.
communities, it is more than a year.
And I really appreciate what you were saying about real estate is a process, right? And so is home ownership is a process. And I'm just wondering, I'm hoping we're getting that through to the next generation, is that over at PCRI, Andrea, she always said, get ready to be ready, right?
Yeah.
And that as this project is coming to, right, we were talking about a couple years, 2027 for it to be actualized.
Yep.
But now is the time that folks can get ready to be one of those home ownerships. Or if not, if that one doesn't pan out for them, then they're ready for something else, right?
Yep.
So if you had to give one word, motivation, to those folks who might be able to, benefit from this process about what they should be doing now, what would that be?
It's not one word. I'm sorry, and I'm jumping in.
Phrase.
Yeah, I would say the Portland Housing Bureau's home ownership preference policy opened up for the first time in 5 years. Y'all apply for it. You don't even have to ask questions of me. Just apply. You can ask the questions later. It takes 1.5 minutes. Please do.
I don't have a word, but I would say we need advocates in this work, right? We have a lot of money we have to raise to build these projects. And the more advocates we have in more spaces, in the foundation space, at any place that has money that would support this project, we need advocates. So.
Yeah. And I would simply just say williamsandrussell.org. Please email me, call me, text me. I'm so happy to walk you through this process and to just be there and be the conduit to make sure we can walk through this together. It's a journey, but we want to be here to make sure we are going to be serving you. It's the community. We're serving the community. Our job is to make sure that they get those spaces. So,
man, we can do that, girl. Y'all, ladies, I am so excited about y'all. Look here, if y'all ain't out there listening, you better pick this one up and listen to it. I'm gonna tell you, but I've been so impressed at this opportunity with you, three wonderful women here at the top of the helm and top of y'all game, doing what y'all doing, and I do appreciate y'all coming in here and sharing with the public a little bit about what's going on over there. And this is very exciting for me. And again, I can do an hour's podcast or a 2-hour podcast with y'all talking about this. Man, I think the progress that we're making in our community today is just beyond my wildest imagination. What I would have looked at this 25 years ago and said, would we be here today? And I am so grateful for you women to be doing the work that y'all doing in the community and bringing these projects along. And so much respect to y'all. And again, hey, this is Black Beat Podcast, and I'm John Washington with my co-host Fawn Aberson. And look in here, y'all, we trying to bring y'all news and information that y'all can work with, and that in a way that y'all can hear and through the voices of the people who y'all need to hear it from. So anyway, I appreciate y'all coming out, and good afternoon.
Thank you.
Yeah, yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you.